Hey, everybody. Jolene and I just wanted to jump on before we share the Australia social media ban and the U.S. cell phone bell-to-bell ban. This episode was recorded several weeks ago. And in light of the last couple days, we thought it was important to acknowledge to our listeners and viewers that the United States is possibly catching up to Australia. What do you think, Jolene?
Perhaps, as you may or may not know, that the United States has had two cases that have just been decided, and the verdicts go against Meta and Facebook and some of the social media companies. And so we wanted to acknowledge that. One in New Mexico, one in LA. Both are saying that social media is dangerous and addictive. We wanted to make sure that you were aware that there is change happening and we're seeing that. Please enjoy this episode and let us know your thoughts afterwards. We'd really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much. And stay off your phones, except watch our podcast.
Put your phones away after you listen.
Exactly. She's conservative and I'm liberal, and yet we've been friends for almost 40 years. Everyone says you shouldn't discuss politics, religion, or money. And we say that's exactly what friends should be talking about. Join us as we tackle the conversations you're having in your head, but are too scared to say out loud. Welcome to We've Got to Talk. Hello, Jolene.
Hello, Nicole. Welcome to We've Got to Talk. Today we are talking about the Australian social media ban and the U.S. cell phone ban in schools. And I think this is a great topic to hear from both sides and see what our views are on this from a Republican and a Democrat.
This was originally a topic that Brianna, our producer, sent us. She was super excited that Australia was taking the lead on this. The ban for 16 and under covered Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, X, YouTube, Reddit, Twitch, Kick, and Threads. And she sent us a bunch of articles. They'd interviewed these teenagers that were very pissed off and very savvy. And what I appreciated in the articles, and I think just maybe it's the Australian way versus an American way, the Australians that were interviewed, the adults, were saying, and the government was saying, they didn't use the word wonky, but this is going to take a while. There's going to be glitches. It's going to have rough patches where I'm not quite sure if Americans would be that honest at the beginning.
I am so glad you said that.
Yeah.
Because I think that's exactly what I took away from these articles too, is they would rather move forward with kind of a half-assed, law that does something than do nothing.
Yes. They wanted to try.
And have it all figured out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Is that a U.S. thing versus an Australia thing? I think I thought about that too.
Yeah. I honestly found it quite refreshing and I think throughout this whole topic today, and I hope that United States, and we can get into it, will just try something, because nothing's going to be perfect. It's too big. It's too big. Social media is too big. Cell phones it's so much a part of our life that we get very stuck. Certainly Americans get very stuck in this is going to hit our First Amendment right. So to go back for a second, to go back to the Australian, when it happened, I guess there were some glitches. That there was one kid I read that he was 14 and he told the company, yes, I'm 14, 4 times, and he got through. There's always a workaround that some kids move to different social media channels. But now, fast forward, the New York Times had a piece talking about the Australian social media ban that Meta has indeed kicked off, I don't know what the word would be, 550,000 users that were underage in Australia. And that, yes, there are definitely tons of workaround, but that some of these kids are not on.
So here are some specifics of this law.
Yeah.
It was actually a law that was developed in November of 24. And this amendment, though, really kind of kicked it into gear to have it be effective in December of 25, called the Online Safety Act. No one under 16 can have an account. And I think that's the one part, as you kind of work through this, what is the intent of this law versus, in reality, what's happening with it. So the intent is for, if you're under 16, to not have an account on those 10 social media sites. So you can still get on it. You can, as a 15-year-old, you can still get on and you can scroll through whatever is on there. But because you don't have an account, it's not specifically feeding into your algorithms that you've developed as an account user. There is some protection there, because one of the things that we're all reading about now is the damage to your mental health as a teenager, or even, prepubescent, kids that are getting cell phones when they're in third grade, And if they have access to social media, what that's doing to their psyche and their perception, because as we all know, the more you talk about wanting to buy new luggage, all of a sudden, all of your algorithms on all your social media are ads for luggage. And you're like, well, how did that happen? How did you know that I wanted luggage? So the point being, if you're under 16 and you don't actually have an account, then you are not developing an algorithm that is specific to what you are looking for. So there is some safety in that.
I thought when it came to like YouTube, that makes sense. But when it comes to places like Instagram, people were using their parents' account, because you can't just go onto Instagram without an account, can you?
You can, because my mother does,
Oh.
because she doesn't have any social media.
It's your account.
No, she
No?
can look up. If I sent her something on Instagram, she can click on it and that will come up on her, like, just as a,
Sure.
I don't know.
I mean, I do that too
Click
with
as a
sometimes
click.
with my dad, but they're not
Yeah.
Instagram users. She doesn't.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So you can still look something up, though, on Instagram,
Right.
and it'll come
Right.
up on Instagram.
Sure.
The other thing that I think is interesting about this law is it says that the social media platforms have to take reasonable steps to verify that a user is 16 and over. And it is not a finable offense if they've taken reasonable steps. So let's say this 15-year-old or 14-year-old that you were referring to said, no, I told him I was 14, but Facebook can come back and say, well, we took reasonable steps. We asked for a photo ID, or we asked for, we looked at some of their, the content, and we assumed that they were over 16. So I think that's the other problem with this is, how accountable are these social media apps really going to have to be if they're taking, what is considered a reasonable step?
In the New York Times article, it was about how some of these Australian kids are using facial hair or swapping their photos with celebrities, and they are getting a workaround. But then they also talked to, I don't know if it was in the New York Times, I've read so much today, but there was a dad that couldn't get through, but his kid could get through. Like, there's going to be glitches. Yeah. But that said, it's a very good point, Jolene, because these media companies, they will get fined $30 million US. Who's going to hold them accountable to that? Should they already be paying that because people are getting through? Like, what is the line, I guess, that says that's right. It? You get the fine.
Here's what I think is interesting. Did they leave it really open-ended because they just wanted to do something, which... Is that signaling to parents, wow, they're serious about this? Like maybe I need to do a better job of watching what my children are doing, because now there's a law. I mean, so is doing something just bringing more attention to the issues so that parents or teachers or whoever it is taking this a little more seriously? And if that's the intent, okay, they're accomplishing that.
I mean, what do you think? I mean, because we could go right into the United States cell phone ban, and I have a lot of thoughts about it. And it is about parenting. It is about parenting. Parenting, people, parenting. So now there's 35 states plus DC that have created bell-to-bell cell phone bans in their schools, and they've seen incredible results with attention spans, grades going up. I mean, I can't even imagine what these teachers were going through before.
Oh,
I
God.
really can't. And Utah just decided, Governor Cox is like, we need to do bell to bell. And I realized he's late because New York started last fall. And yes, of course, there are workarounds. There's going to always be workarounds. Kids are smart and creative if they want to get something done. It's also an incredibly addictive thing, right? So people are very addicted, and some people will do whatever they can to feed the need, basically. But they were
100%.
finding that these kids are playing board games at recess. They're talking to each other. They are implementing sports programs again in lunches and recess to do like what we did. And that sort of social connectivity is crucial to kids' emotional health, developmental health. I'm all for it. I mean, and they were also saying that local and state governments, local school boards are implementing these. They're not waiting. It's a pretty bipartisan topic, I think. You know, I did read that Republicans want it more than Democrats, which I found really fascinating. I think there was a lot of fear, and it's how do I get in touch with my kid? People are worried about school shootings and the world that we're in. You know, that goes into a conversation of guns, but we all survived without phones before. And we all...
Okay, but that is true. But you know what I think is so interesting is I thought about this if... Wow. I mean, I'm so distracted.
Yeah.
You know, whether I have ADD or ADHD or, you know, as an adult even, I would have to sit in the front. I mean, this was even, through college. So for sure, when I was in elementary and, junior high and high school, I would have to sit in the front row or else I would be completely distracted by everything else around me. And so if I needed to concentrate, I had to sit in the front row. But we passed notes. Did you pass notes?
Of course.
And so that was, so I'm thinking about that in terms of, like, if I was in the middle of science class and if Jill were to send me a note and I'm sitting there reading it, I've completely just missed everything that Mrs. Kaufman just did because I absolutely have no idea. I am so into this note of what we are going to play at recess and who we're not going to let in our group because we were mean girls and... or what boy is cute and, are we going to hold hands during the next time there's a movie and it gets dark in the gym? If we were distracted by that, then could you even imagine having cell phones? I mean...
Because we as adults can't handle it. And so that's also what I don't know if this is a liberal conservative thing. I honestly don't really know why it would be. I understand. There's a lot of argument that I'm hearing about these kids have First Amendment rights. And I'm thinking, okay, we're not saying anything. That's fine. But they're going to school. We have licenses to drive. We have age limits to drink. Maybe it's about like kids having the flip phones. If you need to get in touch with a kid, you have a flip phone. Every school could implement it differently.
Pagers. We need to go back to pagers.
But then we need payphones.
And if you need to get a hold of your kid, yes, if you need to get a hold of your kid, you put call mom or, on your pager.
Some of the stats they're saying that children who have smartphones by age 12 have a much higher risk of depression, obesity, and lack of sleep. I mean, it is...
Hello?
It doesn't...
Yeah.
72% of the U.S. high school's teachers reported that students being distracted by cell phones was the major problem in their work. From Pew's Research Center, it says 74% of people support cell phone bans in middle school and high school. Republicans have a 78% approval rating versus Democrats that have a 71%. Some want it all day, some want it part-time. I'm thinking all day. It's the only way that you benefit is to connect, to have those moments of connection or awkwardness or silence or just all those good human things that we need to walk through the world. I mean, I feel like we need to take responsibility as grown-ups, right?
Absolutely.
And And this is a way to care for our children. I don't believe it's just about banning. It's also about figuring out ways, and we can fumble through it. And maybe we can take suggestion from the Australians and understand we need to try something.
One of the things that I thought of, why can't we have jamming devices in schools so that it can, like, so the signals don't come through?
Yes.
And then I read that it's against the law.
Well, there you go.
To have a jamming device.
So that's so funny that you say that.
Federal law.
Because that's so funny. So one thing that I also sort of clued in on is that a lot of these social media inventors are the first ones to say, we don't let our children use it. We don't. And so, for instance, YouTube CEO limits his kids' social media. Bill Gates didn't give his kids phones until they were 14. Mark Cuban installed Cisco routers and used management software to monitor which app his children were on and shut off their activity.
Wow.
But to me, that goes back, Jolene, to parenting.
I think I've shared this story with you, and I know I don't think I've shared it with our viewers, so I've got to tell you this story. This is a family friend of ours in Conway, Arkansas. Both the parents work. They have 4 children. The father is a high school principal, and he's also the basketball coach, I don't know, women's or men's basketball coach. And so their rule is none of their kids have phone. Their oldest, I think, is 14 now. None of their kids have phones, and they're not going to get them until they're 16. They said once they start driving, then they can have a phone so that they can know where they are and blah, blah, blah. They're the only kids in their town that don't have a phone. Like, they know, this family is known for kids don't have phones. So Lily, one day after school, she was supposed to, the instruction was after school, go to the high school, go to your dad's school, and wait for him to get done with practice, and he will bring you home. Mom had to work late. Lily then walks to the high school from, I think she was in junior high. So she walks to the high school. She gets there and her dad's not there. She realized then, she looked at the school calendar that was, posted in the gym and saw that he didn't have practice. He actually had a game and it was away. And so he was not there to take her home. So she knew that the contingency plan was to walk to someone's house. And I can't remember who the house was. But it was raining. But Lily knew that those were the instructions. And so she starts walking and she's crying because she can't, she doesn't have a phone. And so she can't get a hold of her dad and she can't get a hold of her mom. But she knows what her instructions are.
Was the school closed that she couldn't go and use the school phone?
Yeah, I guess maybe.
Okay.
Let's say it is.
Okay.
And so she
and now
she
they're
starts
out
walking.
Payphones. At least there used to be payphones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. And so she starts walking, and that someone stopped and said, someone that she knew, and said, "Lily, do you need a ride?" And she's like, "Nope, I know exactly where I need to go. I am okay." And she kept walking because she was so determined to do the right thing, and that she had to figure all these things out. And so my point of this story is that if this would have happened to somebody who had a cell phone, that they would have instantly called their mom, and their mom's like, "I'm sorry, but I've got to work, and so you're just going to have to walk to, Jim's house or, whatever, and have that communication." But the mom would have told Lily exactly what to do. What Lily had to do instead was figure out, okay, my dad's not here. I can't get a ride home. What's the next thing I have to do? How do I get there? What do I do? It's raining. That sucks, but I'm going to have to do it anyway because rain's not going to kill me. I mean, those kids not having a cell phone has taught them to be resourceful and independent and, having to think through things, which are we losing that with our kids? Because if all they have to do is make a phone call or, then, the problem is solved.
Absolutely.
That is my concern.
I love that you shared that story, and I absolutely a bazillion % agree with you. Even we'll be in a conversation. Any of us will be in a conversation. Oh, what was that film? We don't take a moment to actually use our brains to think about it or not know. Everything is at our fingertips, and that solving problems, trying to figure things out, it reminds me of of traveling in a country that is very different.
Right.
Like when we went to Cambodia, and you have to use your brain in a totally different way. And it's the biggest gift to learn how to problem solve, not panic, be creative the way you think about things. I want to read this. I think this is the right time because you talked about the parenting. So one of the articles, and I can put it in the show notes, was from the New Yorker. And it was a writer named J. Caspian King. And I'm just going to read the very end of the article, which I found interesting. Australia's ban might be seen more fruitfully as a restriction not on children, but on their parents. A comprehensive and wide-ranging demand that the state lay down rules Australian parents cannot enforce on their own. A vision of a better digital life shouldn't just focus on children, but also on workplaces and adult social norms. We all need to put down the phones and make efforts to move the public square away from private technology companies that incentivize cheap engagement. The scope should also be widened to include prescriptions on what we should do with all our newfound time, especially with our children, because I think our aversion to social media and phones really stands in for a broader discomfort with how scheduled, atomized, and expensive their lives have become. Why aren't we saying no to our kids? Why do the kids have phones in their rooms? And you can say, they need it to study. They don't need the phones to study. They might need a computer to study. Is there Safari on that computer? Yes. But there are ways that you can, as a parent, manage your child. Are they going to feel left out? That is part of adolescence. That has nothing to do
But
with...
are they going to be safer? I mean, and that's the whole point.
Well,
when
yes.
our kids first had computers, I mean, kind of computers were new when our kids were,
I guess so. I guess you're right. Yeah.
In an instructional way. If you used the computer, you had to be at the kitchen table. So, we knew what you were looking at and watching and all that, so that you couldn't have a computer. We wouldn't let our kids have a computer in their rooms. You had to use a computer at the table. Here's the other thing, though, is we talk about bans in schools.
Yeah, what is your feeling about bans? How do you feel about it?
Prior to digging into this, like most things that you and I talk about, I think, well, here's what I think. And then you do the research and you read both sides and you go, wow, God, maybe I don't think that. Because here's the problem.
Okay.
My knee-jerk reaction would be, yes, love it, ban it, have social interaction, can't have phones all day long. Our friend Susie, her youngest daughter, I think they get phones at recess. Or at lunchtime. She's in 8th grade, but that's the only time they can have their phone. And I don't know if they have to, put it somewhere or put it in a backpack or whatever. And I like that. However, I'm just wondering if by saying no phones at all, if we're kind of doing a disservice to what happens when they get out of school. Because if we're not teaching them to use it responsibly, and can we take that opportunity during the school day to teach kids how to use it responsibly and saying, instead of saying that phone is a bad thing and no, you can't use it, is there some way to use a phone? And I don't know what that is. I mean, honestly.
I think that's a really good point, Jolene, because I do like the bell-to-bell system. I like that it's a place for kids to learn and create and not be distracted. But I also agree and was reading a ton about it. Like, what else are we doing, everybody? Like, maybe there's a class that we develop that you take in school and we learn about healthy social media and cell phone habits. I'd like to take it. I think we all would. Like, this is not, but it's especially concerning because these are children, right? But I think one of the reasons that people just come up with the ban is because, number one, it's something that it's certainly not easy, but it's easier to do than coming up with a plan of how do we help? How do we educate kids about these about not just the dangers, all of it. Like, can social media be positive? How can it be negative? Like, I was going to say, it's
digital
almost
citizenship.
Yes, digital
curriculum.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I was going to say it's like sex education, but totally not. But like, how do we have responsible home ec?
It's like home ec.
Yeah, like you learn to cook.
Which I don't think they teach that anymore.
And you deal with your cell phone.
One of the things that I think we read, I think this was an article you shared with me, was where does the discipline come in? Because I think this is where the real challenge is for school districts right now is the teachers don't want to be the bad guys because then they're the police. You know, they're the teachers and the police. And so if they're taking cell phones away, then, you know, how many times do you have to take it away before you call the parent? And how many times till that kid goes to the principal's office? And I would love to hear, please, as a teacher, you know, a teacher, administrator, please let us know your feelings on this or what is working in your school district, because I would love to share that with the rest of our community.
One of the articles, they were saying that teachers spend like an hour of their day total dealing with disciplining kids with their cell phones. And every state, by the way, a lot of states, they have very different rules. Some are bell to bells, some a lot like Susie's daughter, they have access at recess. Each state has its own rules, and some states have no rules yet. But it seems like everyone is aware of how difficult and invasive these instruments are. Let's just do some housekeeping for a moment before we continue. Please like and subscribe. And share with a friend. And if you're interested in being a sponsor, please go to we'vegottotalk.com and go to the contact page. We would love to have you as a sponsor. These conversations are really difficult. They're not black and white, are they, Joe? They are so nuanced. They are not Republican or Democrat. They are not. And I think in some ways this topic, like, it's kind of a perfect example of what We've Got to Talk is about, because everyone's got their own feelings about it, their own stories about it. And like you said, which I thought was really beautifully said, that you had an idea about what your feelings were, and then you did some research and went, maybe I don't think that way. So during the Biden administration, his Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, called for a warning on social media companies to have it be like tobacco or alcohol, because he was so worried about the jump in suicide rates, the mental health strain, the comparison, the depression, the anxiety. And I was reading an article where, and I think it was in California, there was an argument that they were concerned that the label would promote shame and we need to teach responsible, healthy ways. My reaction to that was, are you kidding me? We got to do something. Like, try something. Why can't we do both? We're the adults in the room. We're the grown-ups.
Right.
It's like a multi-pronged solution. And I think that this really could be a bipartisan issue.
Absolutely. Because, I mean, obviously we all want healthy kids. We all want, you know, mentally stable people in our world. And even like the Roblox, which is a, you know, kind of a kid-friendly
what is that, Jolene?
Platform. It's some type of game, but it's a platform for kids then they can communicate via this platform. But that also means that people who are predators can also disguise themselves as a kid and get on this platform. And I think there's been some incidents that have happened within the Roblox. I think Roblox is a very age-specific, that you're really meant to be talking to people your own age. So obviously if there's, you know, a predator who can obviously get in there, then that's where dangerous things can happen. So even on things, you know, so I look at that as, okay, they've tried to develop a platform that is kid friendly. You know,
you still got to be careful.
Do bad things.
I mean, you've got to be careful. I read the CEO or one of the founders of YouTube, Steve Chen. He will not let his kids look at YouTube Shorts or any short form at all. Because he's like, it's too addictive. It screws up their attention spans. No way. No way. He monitors. He'll let them watch a little bit of long form, and that is it. And this is a person that has developed the platform. So he is saying, like, it's addictive, and you need to protect your children, period. And I know that this is going to probably sound like an episode of, like, parents, step up. But parents, step up. I'm a parent. It's exhausting. You want some downtime, or they're screaming, and you're like, just go on the screen. I get it. I get it. But it's really important to know what your kids are watching and limit the time. I mean, listen, I was a latchkey kid and we'd watch TV, but that was, 3 channels. It was a little bit of a different time.
Yes, I agree. And I think everybody would agree with that. Here's what I found so interesting, that social media is intentionally designed to A, keep you scrolling.
Yes.
B, trigger emotion, and C, increase dependency. So if you look at those 3 things,
that's a drug.
What else? That's meth. That's cocaine.
Yes.
I mean, those to keep you coming back for more, to trigger an emotion, to make you feel high, to make you feel great, everything's fantastic, and to increase dependency. I want more of this. And so you look at if this is exactly the same thing that a drug does. And so what do? If you're addicted to a drug, you have to go to detox. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing here.
I'll see in an airport or in a public space, like kids just addicted to the screen, little babies with screens in front of them. And that adult pulls that screen away and they go completely ballistic. Why are they going ballistic? Because they're addicted to the screen. And who's winning? The tech companies. Not really the parents, not the children, the tech companies. I mean, in a way, it's the same issue with lots of news. The tech companies are winning. They're making a bunch of money. They're pitting us against each other. This is a problem. I didn't have my own baby, so I don't know if that means I'm less of a parent or what.
No.
But I feel like our generation, I don't understand why we have such a hard time saying no to our kids.
Because it's hard. It is hard being a parent.
It is hard being a parent, but our parents had no problem saying no.
Well, but I think they did. I remember I was relentless. I was a relentless kid. If my mom said no, I would continue to beg. I would find another way to ask her. I would go back and say, but can we do this instead? I mean, and I know that I exhausted her at some point. And she was like, fine, yes, you can go. You can go, fine, just go. Be home at 10 o'clock. Fine. Yeah, get the heck out of here. It's hard. It is hard saying no because now you know you're going to get blowback. And sometimes it's easier just to say yes than it is to have to deal with the blowback. And then they're going to be mad and that, the whole thing. It's hard being a parent.
Yeah. I also do
And this is just another thing to be, that we have to fight against.
I see a lot of images or people, experiences where I'll see a little kid and the little kid is trying to get their parents' attention. That's the part that makes me the most sad, honestly.
Oh, I know.
Where the kid doesn't have a screen and they just want to interact with mom or dad or sister or babysitter or whatever, and that adult is checked out. And I think,
that's sad.
What are you modeling?
If they don't get their parents' attention, they'll get attention from somewhere else. I mean, that is so true. Do you think, here's one of the things that I think about though too, is do you think that if Trump were to issue an executive order or, God forbid he should go to Congress and try to get a law passed, banning cell phones in schools, that Democrats would have a blowback against it just because Trump said it?
Probably.
I do too.
I mean, I gave some shout outs for our 2026 episode, a couple things that were actually good that was doing, but it's just completely muffled by all these big things that he's doing. And I don't think you're wrong, Jolene. I think people are really like entrenched in their camps. They can't see through the trees right now. It would be, don't tell us what to do all of a sudden in terms of a cell phone ban.
You'd have the ACLU who would then say,
it's all about
what about those kids?
It's all about the First Amendment rights, too.
Yeah, and you'd have, like, what about those kids who need a phone for their diabetes monitoring? Or,
but I'm thinking to myself, so let them have it. Like, why?
Right.
Like, we've just gotten so extreme. It's like
exactly
we can't have any nuance with this cell phone ban either. If someone needs it, like because there was some reading that I did about like some autistic diagnosis that really. So let them have the phone. Like, why is this? Yeah. If we looked at it from a human lens and not a partisan lens, we could say, so let's work on this together. So this is I think we should learn from Australia. I think is the bottom line that. It is messy. There's going to be workarounds. There's going to be people that push back. There's going to be people that end up liking it. And it's just trying something. Yeah. Try something and acknowledge that it's going to be bumpy and messy and hard. And I mean, the good news is that we do have some local school districts and states are choosing to try and take care of the kids. And I like what you're saying, Jolene, about let's also implement some sort of, whether it's a class in school or some sort of course, how do we use these smartphones in a responsible, healthy way?
Good.
What do you think?
I like it. Have we talked about Weather Adam?
What's that?
Oh, good. I couldn't remember if I'd already done him or not.
Okay.
It's Weather Adam, WeatherAdam. Adam Kruger, he's the chief meteorologist at Fox LA. He will do an entire segment about the weather to the lyrics of some song. So if you give him a song of, and he does some great stuff. Like the Eminem version. So he'll take an Eminem song, but he'll use like different phrases in that song or different lyrics in that song and implement it into the weather. So the thing that I just saw come across my feed was he did a thing with Leo DiCaprio at the Golden Globes and did kind of a riff on something that he did. He's very talented. So if you can find him, Weather Adam, very entertaining.
Awesome. All right. Well, my good for the soul.
Yes.
I was thinking about it because I was like, we're doing a social media ban / United States cell phone ban episode. So I thought I should give an assignment.
Oh.
The next time you want to scroll, instead, call a friend. If the friend doesn't answer, leave an old-fashioned voice message saying, I'm thinking about you. I just wanted to say hi. And then if they don't answer, you put your phone down, you walk out the door, and you take a walk without your phone. I was going to say for 15 minutes, but a lot of people don't have watches anymore. But just take a little walk.
That is true.
Just take a little walk without your phone. Would you rather have all your messages and photos leak publicly or never use your cell phone again?
No, I'm too dependent on my cell phone for work. So, yeah, go ahead. Because I don't send anything.
You're smart.
That is, because I just know that it's
out there. But your photos?
There.
Any photos?
I mean, yeah, there's some unflattering photos, but nothing naughty. Okay, here's yours.
Okay.
Would you rather be limited to one social media app forever or have to create a brand new username every day?
Girl, I would be so happy since I'm in charge of the social media
Yes.
and I find it mind numbing. I would love to have one app. I'm good. I'm good with one app.
What would be the one social media app you would use?
Well, here's the question. Is YouTube considered the social media app then?
I think so.
It would be YouTube for sure.
So viewer and listener, if you are on YouTube watching and listening to us
Yes.
now, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please give us a thumbs up. Please comment. We want to hear your comments. We want to hear your thoughts. And if you are a teacher or administrator and or a parent,
yes.
we would love to hear your opinion on all this and what is working and what isn't working. And
And if you have any ideas, that would be great too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Thank you, Jolene.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, listener. Thank you all. We
Thank
appreciate you.
We really do.
We've Got to Talk is produced across the world by the wildly talented, creative, and hilarious team at Bambi Media. Our theme song is Jump Jive Swing by Space Train Unlimited. Thank you so much for listening, and join us every week for another episode of We've Got to Talk.